If you want rice like this in your Instant Pot Mini, it's actually really easy once you know the right setup. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through how to make white rice, brown rice, how much you can safely cook in a big batch in this little Mini, and how you can make a really small amount of rice without getting the dreaded burn notice. And then at the end, I'm going to show you a little tip I picked up that helps you get extra special fluffy rice. And if we've not met before, I'm Susan from Cooking and Calm, and here we're all about finding ways to eat well, save a bit of time and keep things a bit calm in the kitchen no matter what is going on out there. And I've been cooking rice in all kinds of different Instant Pots for the last 10 years, and this method that I'm using works as well in the Mini as it does in the other Instant Pots. So let's make a start with the easiest one of all, and that is white rice. And I'm going to be using our favourite white Basmati today, but it also works super well with Jasmine rice. So let's do it. So we're going to start with a fairly standard portion for me of 1 cup of rice. And we're going to start by rinsing the rice just as you would when you're cooking on the stovetop. So now we've rinsed our rice, and all I need to do next is get it into the Instant Pot. And the proportions are really easy. I've got that 1 cup of white rice, and I'm going to add exactly the same amount of water. Just give it a little shake to get that rice under the water. Just before we start cooking, one little side note, because we are an international community here and Instant Pots are different in different regions in the world. I'm cooking here with a UK Instant Pot Mini, 3.7 or 8 litre, 4 quart. And our version of the Mini doesn't have a rice button. We've got a dedicated egg button, but it's all okay because these buttons are just a preset of time for the pressure cook setting, and we all have the pressure cook setting. So if you're in the UK, we're going to be using the pressure cook setting today with our timings. If you're in the US or other regions that have a rice preset button, you choose. You can use pressure cook, or you can get programming up your rice button. They're both just a timed setting for pressure cook, so use whichever one works for you. So if you do have that rice button, you get an extra bonus, because once you've programmed it up, the Instant Pot should remember your last setting, so when you're making rice in the future, you'll find it's already set up and you're just pressing start. Now let's get this rice on, and what we're going to be doing is cooking this for 3 minutes at high pressure, and then we're going to let it do a natural release for about 10 minutes. I tend to leave the keep warm button on for rice, because then once it's done, it's preheat, it goes into cook, and then we are letting it do a natural release. You'll see that the timer on the front starts to count upwards, so I can see when I've got to 10 minutes. If you find the keep warm button is overcooking your kind of rice, or it's going a bit sticky, just experiment with turning it off, see what difference it makes until you get your rice perfect for you, because every rice is different and we all like our rice slightly different, don't we? So what even is perfect white rice? I don't know. This is my perfect white rice. So you can see now we're starting to get steam, and the Instant Pot will soon move from preheat into its cook mode and start counting down. And you're going to see that pink pin, oh, just came up as I did it. So the pink pin is up, and that means that in a little while the Instant Pot is going to get enough steam to come to pressure. You'll see on the front the display is going to move over from preheat to cook, and we'll start counting down from 3 minutes. So that's our, oh, still talking, 5 beeps. So that's our preheat and our 3 minutes cook done, and I'm now going to leave it for a 10-minute natural release. And because I've left the keep warm button on, this is going to start counting up from 0 up to 10. So you can see on the display when you've got to 10 minutes, you don't need to hover there. It doesn't matter if you're a minute or 2 over. We're just letting it kind of naturally dissipate the steam, and then our rice will be ready. And that gives me time to wash up my cup and my rice washing bowl, because these are going to be doing a lot of work today. Okay, so here we are. We've left this for 10 minutes, and now I'm going to just let out whatever steam is left in there, and our white rice should be done. So let's see. We'll just wait for that pink pin to drop. See, hardly any steam is left by this time. Probably if I'd left it another minute, it would have dropped on its own. Ooh, and that's looking good. So you can see that our rice is perfectly cooked. It's not stuck to the bottom. Beautifully fluffy. Let's have a little taste. That's going to be too hot to eat. My glasses are steaming up. That's perfectly cooked, as it always is. So that is my absolute go-to for white rice. 1 cup or about 200 grams is going to give you 3 to 4 portions, depending on how big an eater you are. But let's move on to another type of rice, one that I'm eating more and more, which is brown rice. And the winner brown rice in our family is brown basmati rice. So we'll start with our 1 cup of rice. Same as before, I'm going to give that a good rinse before we get it in the Instant Pot. So same as before, we'll get that into the inner pot. Now this time we're going to be using a little bit more water for the brown rice, and the ratio that I find works absolutely perfectly for brown basmati is to have 1 cup of rice to 1 1/4 cups of water. So let's get that in there. Make sure the rice is under the water. You can just get your pot out and give it a bit of a shake. Lid on. Oh, wrong way around. And there's a little bit longer cooking time for brown basmati, so we're going to do it on pressure cook or rice 15 minutes. And same as before, the pressure cooker is going to be in preheat mode while it starts to warm that water, and then it will go on to pressure cook, and it will pressure cook for its 15 minutes, and then we're going to see it start counting upwards. And then again for the brown rice, I'm going to let it have 10 minutes natural pressure release, and then we're going to open the lid and see what we've got. And our white rice is starting to cool down now, and for food safety we want to get the rice cooled down before we put it in the fridge, so we'll let it cool down no more than an hour and then straight into the fridge. And you can also freeze it, which really saves time on those frantic days. And there it goes. This has taken 6 minutes to get to pressure, and now it's gone into its cook mode for 15 minutes. So we'll let that cook for 15, leave it another 10, so that's 25, about 30 minutes in total. But it's hands off time. I don't need to be here. I can be getting on with other stuff and just let the Instant Pot do the work. And that's how we free up time with the Instant Pot. I have just realised that I used a 1 1/3 cup instead of 1 1/4 in the brown basmati. So let's see how it goes. It's not that much different, so I'm not hugely worried, but it might be a little tiny bit wetter than usual. So we're at the 10, so let's let out any remaining steam. Not much, that's a good sign. Okay, let's see. I think we've got away with it, so let's see how this is. Yeah, a tiny bit damp, but not much. So that's the brown basmati done. A little bit damper than I normally do it, but it's still perfectly fine. And when you do it, don't do what I did. Keep it to 1 1/4 water to 1 cup of rice. So I'm going to get that into a storage tray, and then we can move on to our next rice challenge. So that's our brown basmati all done, and I'm going to put that to one side to cool now, and then we'll get it in the fridge. And I was asked this week whether the mini 4-quart could cook 4 dry cups of rice, and the answer to that is I don't know. So we're going to give the mini a good run out and push it a bit and see what the biggest batch of rice I can make in here is, while still cooking safely and remembering that there's a rule about Instant Pots and pressure cooking, and that is that when we're cooking starchy foods like pasta or rice or beans, we need to keep the level of the liquid and food in the Instant Pot under the halfway mark. So there's a halfway mark and a 2/3 mark. 2/3 is the maximum for foods that are non-starchy, but for rice, we need to see how much we can get in here, but keeping it under that halfway mark. So let's see what we can do. I'm going to start with 3 cups because I'm pretty confident we can get 3 cups of white rice and 3 cups of water in there, but that might be it. So let's see. So I'm going to give that a rinse. Three cups of water. Okay, so I've got my 3 cups in. I'm still quite a bit below that halfway mark, so I'm going to do a 4th. So let's get another cup rinsed. Here comes our 4th cup of rice into the mini. I don't think I've ever made this much rice before. And here's another cup of water. Pretty close to that halfway mark now on here, as close as I want to get anyway. So 4 cups of white rice. That is a lot of rice. There's only 2 of us here. There's going to be a lot of fried rice going on these next few weeks. So same as before, we're going to get the lid on, and even though this is a much bigger quantity, it's going to be the exact same timing. So that is pressure cook or rice, and get that back down to 3. Start. This is a bit of a big ask, so let's wish the mini good luck and see what happens next. So that has taken 16 minutes on preheat, and we're now counting down for our 3 minutes cook time, and then I'm going to leave it for its 10 minutes natural release, and we just have to keep willing this mini to see if it can do it. It's probably about 16 portions of rice in here, so either you've got a very big family or you really do love your batch cooking. There we are, gone over to our keep warm. Fingers crossed, there's been no burn notice, so I'm starting to feel a bit more confident, but time will tell. See you in 10 minutes. Well, it's done it. Ooh, very hot. We use a fork to get right down into the pot. So, do you know, it looks fine. It's so surprising what this mini can do. So even though it has managed and done it, it's a bit of a strain for a small pot like this. So if you're cooking big portions, I would definitely recommend thinking about buying a 6-quart instant pot, or even an 8-quart if you're a big family or you do lots and lots of batch cooking. This is just 800 watts, so it's a big ask doing this amount of pressure cooking. But would you believe it's done it? It's amazing what it can do. So let me give you my tip for whatever kind of method you're using for cooking rice in the Instant Pot. And that is, once you've got the lid off and you've loosened off the rice with a rice paddle or a fork and made sure nothing's stuck to the bottom, just take a clean tea towel, pop it across the top of your pot and just rest the lid just slightly on top. You don't need to actually fix it on top. And then just leave this here and let your rice just finish steaming without any condensation dropping into it for 5 or 10 minutes while you finish kind of putting out the rest of dinner. And then you will get the absolute perfect fluffy rice. So our rice has had a few minutes to steam and that should be ready to go now. Oh yeah. So you can see now that the rice has steamed itself a bit, grains are separated, and that is really good. So for extra fluffy rice, don't forget the tea towel trick. And if you're finding these videos helpful, I'd be so grateful if you could give the video a thumbs up. That helps YouTube know that I'm trying to be a helpful human, and that helps the video get shared more and reach other people like you. So thank you very much if you can do that. So let's get this rice decanted, and I'll give the mini another wash, and then we'll start its final task of the day with a mini portion of rice in the mini. So this is where a lot of people get stuck. So the mini is small, but not that small, and it still needs a certain amount of water in this pot in order to be able to come to pressure and cook your rice effectively. So if you try and cook a very small amount in the inner pot, it will only have a very small amount of water, not enough to come to pressure, and you're likely to either get a burn notice or some kind of weird behaviour, and it won't cook your rice. So to cook a small portion of rice in the mini or any Instant Pot actually, you need to use what's called the pot in pot method. Well, what's that, you say? Well, that is where we cook our rice inside a smaller pot within the big pot, pot in pot. Seems obvious now. And we stand it on a trivet and use the normal amount of water in the bottom of the pot and just have our small amount of rice and water in this inner pot. So let's do it and it will make a lot more sense to you. So the first thing to do is to make sure you've got a pot in pot setup that fits nicely in the Instant Pot Mini, because it's a lower depth pot. So I've got other videos where I talk about that and I'll put those in the description. But I'm using this trivet here and this official Instant Pot kind of very low depth bowl with a silicone lid. I love this thing. So this is the one I use in all of my Instant Pots actually for rice when I'm doing pot in pot. So let's start by putting in our trivet, and we'll add the minimum amount of liquid for the Instant Pot Mini, which is about 1.5 cups. So that's our water in the bottom, but we're not going to actually cook in that. We're going to use that to kind of bring the machine to pressure. So I've got 1/2 cup here of washed white basmati rice, and I'm not putting that in the main pot. I'm going to put that in my pot in pot bowl. So let's stand that there, and there it goes in. I'm going to use the same amount of rice and water for cooking white rice. So that's 1/2 cup. Pour that into our pot in pot. Just like we did with the big pot, just give it a swizzle. Get that rice all settled in there, and then I'm going to use this silicone lid. It's optional to put a lid on, but it does stop the condensation dripping into your rice and getting it more wet than it needs to be. And then we shall put on our lid for the final time today. Come on, Minnie. Same timing. I'm going to put it on pressure cook or rice, 3 minutes, and start. And just the same as always with rice, we're going to let this do its preheat, then it will go into its cooking stage for 3 minutes, and then I'm going to leave it to naturally release for 10 minutes, and then I'll let the rest of the steam out and we'll see what we've got. So the rice has had its 10-minute natural release, so I'm now going to let out the steam from the pot that's left. Now let's see what we've got. Looking good. So there we have our small portion of rice. Let's check it's cooked. Super hot. Really good rice. Tiny portion. You can even make it smaller than that. You could do 1/3 cup. So now you know how to cook rice in your Instant Pot. So I hope you'll get experimenting, and you've also seen how we can use the pot in pot method to cook rice. But there's something even better than that, and that is when we use pot in pot method to cook something underneath, like a curry, and the rice on top at the same time. So if you'd like to see more about pot in pot cooking, take a look here. But for now, thank you so much for watching. May your kitchen be calm and your rice be fluffy, and I'll see you next time.